A Minnesota man was murdered. Now his mom is sounding the alarm on a state program that she says is falling short when people need it most. Next. Kim Adams, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You've been living through, there's nothing else to call it, but an absolute nightmare. Your 27-year-old son, Devon, he was on his lunch break in a Fridley parking lot when he was murdered by a stranger. It was March of 2023 when Devon watched Johnson Sirleaf beating his girlfriend in a vehicle. Your son then walked over to help that woman and was shot and killed for it. As if this couldn't be more horrific, Sirleaf had a very long criminal record. We've spoke about that before. He had 8 felonies, and he should have been in prison at the time. Correct, Kim?
Yeah, he definitely should have been in prison, and he was let out 4 months prior to killing my son. The writing was on the wall. We knew that he was going to continue his crimes, and they just let him out. And on the one side of this story, they're talking about the fact that crime has gone down in Minneapolis, which is, first of all, clearly not true. And all the jails are full, too. And he was one of the ones that should have stayed. This is not going well for our community.
So you've questioned Minnesota's so-called justice system back then. You now have even more questions surrounding what's called the Minnesota Crime Victims Reimbursement Program. Now, it's supposed to, quote, we're pulling right from their website here, help victims with their financial losses and aid in their recovery from a violent crime. Their mission is to reduce the economic impact of violent crime on victims and their families by providing direct financial assistance. You've had to deal with the criminal trial. You miss work. There's a lot happening financially, I think, that people do not fully realize. And this program is supposed to be there to help. Talk about what you've been through, how much you lost financially as a result of this horrific crime.
So from the year prior to Devon being killed, and then the next year, I was short $27,000. Of course, that is not what they paid me. They initially, after my first, the first time that I requested my reparations, I got a check for $1,461. And at that point, I was told that I would not be getting any more money. And that took me 6 months just to get that. So I have over 75 emails back and forth throughout the last year and a half trying to get what I feel like is fair.
And talk more about that, just the financial loss that you've been dealing with. And it's really remarkable that you've been able to continue pushing back on all of this and trying to get some answers, which it sounds like you have really yet to do.
Yes. I was completely offended by the fact that they are not treating people who are victims of crime and that we have to fight so hard. There's a lot of other people who also have not gotten their reparations, but it's so emotionally and physically draining to constantly have to be on top of them and be on top of them and be on top of them. And a lot of times people just say, never mind, it's too much. And it really is too much. They put us through a lot of hoops and a lot of pay stubs and going back and forth. And it's really been super insulting, actually. This organization came from the federal reparations board. And this is what this fund is for. It's for these people, for us. And it's just not happening. And I continue to go up the ladder to supervisors who would not respond to my calls or email.
And this at one point was named the Reparations Board. They've changed their name through the state of Minnesota to the reimbursement, this crime reimbursement program. You mentioned how you get $1,400 to begin with. In total now, how much financial assistance have you received from the program?
As of October of 2024, I got $7,391.75.
And you at the time, I know, were just asking to be able to cover the funeral of your son, who again is killed by a stranger randomly in a parking lot, and you've yet to even have a funeral for him due to this. I know you've asked lawmakers and elected officials for help here. You tried Governor Tim Walz with no response. However, you were able to meet with Attorney General Keith Ellison. What was his response?
He was empathetic. I felt that I was heard. However, I didn't go there to be heard. I went there for action and some help. However, that was very minimal. I was very frustrated. I asked Keith Ellison how it could be that we can just give away $27 million to one family and my son doesn't get anything. My son was white and he saved a Black woman's life. And nobody really cares. And they're not really helping me at all. I feel like there's a lot of injustice and some bad decision making throughout our administration in Minnesota. And it needs to stop.
And I will fill in that blank. I know you're referring to the family of George Floyd, and obviously you want to be careful about all of this, which I understand as well. We have reached out to the Department of Public Safety to ask about the Crime Victims Reimbursement Program, also to ask about your situation specifically. A spokesperson said that they are working on a response. But through all of this, you've now realized that you're not alone in this situation. We know the murder rate in Minnesota has increased 50% since 2019. That is 50% in 5 years. Just share what you can about other families with similar circumstances.
A lot of people are not able to continue this fight. This is a fight that is very draining emotionally. It's very frustrating. And I actually, even through my fight with this, I had to take breaks, and sometimes a couple months I would do nothing and try to get myself more energy, and I come back. And that's another thing I told Keith Ellison. I said, just so you know, I'm not going away. And he said, I have a feeling that's true. I said, it is. In terms of other mothers, they're just as frustrated as I am. Some of them have other obligations, or maybe they have children and they just don't have the time or the energy to do this. We shouldn't have to fight for this. This should not be this hard. And something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong.
I do want to mention that there is a fund set up to help you have that celebration of life for your son and help you recover some of these costs. I hope people will help. But Kim Adams, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. Thank you for speaking out.
Yes, thank you.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We'll see you next time.